Last month, Mike of Bibliophile Bookscapes started an original tag with the question, what if you could never acquire another book? And the question behind that question was, how long would your library sustain you? So it's all in fun, of course, though I'll admit that I am so glad nobody tagged me because the questions filled me with more anxiety than I would like to admit. But I do understand that the questions were asked in fun, and I certainly did have fun listening to other people's answers and leaving them comments. But I know that if the acquisition window were suddenly to slam down on me tomorrow, I would not be at peace. What I'd like to propose now is a slight twist to the tag. So an extension of the hypothetical scenario. Instead of the window slamming shut on our acquisitions immediately, we get a grace period in which to, prepare ourselves for what is to come. So this is your last opportunity to prep. But in the spirit of the original tag, we do have to draw the line somewhere. So these will be the 5 last chances, and let's choose wisely. Question 1. What book do you not yet have in your collection that you would snatch up in a heartbeat if you knew that this was your last chance? For me, that would be The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. I was recommended this book over 10 years ago by a good friend whose taste in reading I trust and respect. He said that it would be very different from anything I'd ever read, but he was pretty sure that I would love it. And the way he described it convinced me that I would love it. So why haven't I read it yet? Well, it's because the way he described it also made it seem like it had the gravity of a planet, the gravitational force of a planet, that if it came too close to the orbit of my own personal gravitational force, would completely alter my orbit and change the course of my reading life forever. And that did sound exciting, but it also didn't feel like something I was quite ready for. I liked my current reading track, or my reading track back then, and I didn't want to, jump timelines or disrupt my orbit just yet. So I said, okay, it's for the future, for when I will be ready to make that big jump. And I would like it to be in my collection in case there is something big to happen in the future that will make it my last chance to have. Question 2. Which series would you like to complete? And if the series is still being written, you will get all the installments of that series even after the acquisition window closes. So my answer is the Young Wizard series by Diane Duane. So the first book, So You Want to Be a Wizard, is still one of the best children's fantasies I have ever read. I read this and thought, how did this not become as big as A Wrinkle in Time? How did this not have a movie like The Last Unicorn? I'm still baffled. I have a few other books in the Young Wizard series, but not yet the entire collection. And that is the set that I would like to be complete before the acquisition window closes. Question 3. Which author's bibliography would you want in full? And if this author is still alive and still writing, you will receive all future books, but just by this author. I thought long and hard about this because there are many authors I love, but I decided to go with an author whom I have not loved enough. And an author who, if this happens, I will love late, which is an appropriate thing to say about him because it's St. Augustine, who wrote, "O beauty ever ancient, ever new, late have I loved thee." I just think that if I could never acquire any more books apart from what I already have and what I can get in this grace period, then I will soon be entering my contemplative in a convent era. And I might as well have the entire set of St. Augustine's writings with me when I do. Question 4. You get a blind box with 10 extra books. And the blind box was put together in good faith with the person selecting the books believing that these were really good examples of the genre that they represent. But you can only pick one genre. Which would it be? I think I would pick the adventure genre. I didn't realize how much I liked it until I finished my Rule of 3+1 project for the start of the year, in which I was reading speculative fiction and science fiction. And then I realized what I liked most about those books was not the science, but the adventure. So I'd like more of that. So more in the tradition of H. Rider Haggard and The Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle, but of course, not limited to them. And it would be interesting to me to see what this hypothetical good-natured book curator would put into my blind box. Question 5. You get one book buddy. Which fellow booktuber has a collection that you would most like to borrow books from? For me, hands down, it's going to be Candy from the Great Literary Rabbit Hole. I don't generally watch bookshelf tour videos. I prefer to, hear more about books rather than to just see what's on people's shelves. But Candy's videos were an exception. She just arranges them and chooses them with such whimsy. She has a vampire shelf for a vampire reading project that she's doing. And I'd go to town on that vampire shelf, I think. I don't even like vampires that much, but it's such a curated collection of literature with vampires that has everything from Dracula to Twilight, with some Anne Rice in between. I think I would have a really nice vampire reading project summer if I could have Candy as my book buddy during this, acquisition winter. So those are the prepping loopholes that I've come up with as a kind of sequel to Mike's tag. If you think these questions would be fun to answer, please do and tag me so that I can watch your videos and leave you comments. As for whom I would like to tag, first, Nadine of Widely Reading, who was the first to suggest to me that I should do an original tag, although this is not the tag you originally suggested, is it, Nadine? I hope that's okay. I also tag Keen of Keen Reads, who said that his personal collection would last him about 5 years, which blew my mind. And I also tag Michaela of Media with Michaela, who is a new book blogger. She's on her second video, so this might be a fun way for her to join the BookTube party. So that's it for this tag or this sequel to Mike's tag. If there were other loopholes that you think I could have included, well, make a part 3 and I'll answer.